Cool. So here is why stories are so powerful. They bypass critical thinking. Stories bypass critical thinking. So in really simple terms, again, I don't teach anything that's complicated. There's two parts of the brain. There's the amygdala, which is sometimes referred to as the croc brain. And the croc brain is the fight or flight, the survival part of the brain. It's, depending on your theory of evolution, it's the part of the brain that first formed after we crawled out of the swamp, as man was starting to evolve. Now, later on, we developed this other part of the brain, which is called the neocortex. Now, the neocortex is, whereas the croc brain is fight or flight, emotion, right? So we talk about, there's in his book, Emotional Intelligence. Somebody will, I'm sure, have the name of the author. It just eludes me for the time being. He talks about a brain hijack, and that's when the croc brain engages, and it actually overtakes the critical thinking part of the brain. So when you fly into a rage about something, you know that your croc brain has essentially hijacked the rest of your brain. So the neocortex is designed to sort information. So it's the brain's way of stopping it overloading with information. So you know that your neocortex is working when you hear yourself say things like, "Oh, I've heard that before," or, "Yeah, actually, I probably need to think about that." You know that your prospect's neocortex is working when they say things like, "Oh, well, let me have a read of that, and I'll come back to you in a few days," or "Let me have a think about that, and we can talk again next week." So when you tell a story, your information bypasses the neocortex and it actually goes straight into the amygdala. So why is that? Well, for most, stories are the most primal form of communication that exists to man, right? So from caveman days where they drew pictures, and then if you think about your earliest recollection of language as a child, what was it? What was it that your mum or your dad did with you just before you went to sleep at night when you were a kid? What'd they do? They read you a story, right? They read you a story. So because of that, stories bypass critical thinking. And you can literally see people's physiology change. Like when you become really tuned in to what's going on, when you actually relate your information in the body of a story, you can see people's physiology change. The way they sit, the way they start to experience what it is that you say changes. And it's because they are literally experiencing what it is that you're saying using a different part of their brain. So they bypass critical thinking, they engage the croc part of the brain. And here's the other thing. If your story is relevant, right, keyword being relevant to that particular person, so meaning my circumstances are similar to the circumstances that you're describing in the protagonist that you are talking about in the story that you're telling me. If my circumstances are similar to the protagonist in your particular story, I can't help but live vicariously through the protagonist that you're talking about in your particular story, or the character that you're talking about in your particular story. If it's relevant to me, I can't help but live vicariously through that particular person's experience.